Let us see the next question. Following information is available regarding expected return, standard deviation, beta of three shares available in the stock market. So there are three securities for which the information is given to us. 1, 2, 3. Returns have been given to us, beta is given to us, and standard deviation information is given to us. The question says further, RF is 4%, market return RM is 6%, and standard deviation is 10%. See, you have to read the language of the question very carefully. Suppose risk-free rate of return is 4% and market return is 10% and standard deviation is 10%. It means that it is implied for you to understand this is provided as the sigma m. Standard deviation of the market portfolio return is 10%. You are required to compute, so you are required to make the calculation. First question, assuming that the funds are equally invested in these three stocks, then compute the risk of the portfolio in terms of beta. So the question is providing the information that you are making equal investment in these three securities. That is, 1/3 investment is made in the first one, 1/3 in the second one, and 1/3 in the third one. The question says that compute the risk in form of beta. That is, beta of the portfolio is required to be found, and standard deviation. That is, say the standard deviation is required to be calculated using Sharpe index model. Dear students, this Sharpe index model can be also given a name as, that is, you are required, the question may be formed as calculate the risk using the co-movement between the securities due to change in the market index. That also may be the way the question can be formed. So friends, this is a very good question that we have over here. How to make calculation of this answer is very important for you to understand, because slightly it is a new kind of question. See, the question is providing the information that you are required to make the computation of the beta of the portfolio. That is, say, simple weighted average, and the risk of the portfolio in terms of the standard deviation using Sharpe index model. How to do this calculation is very important. So let us make calculation. With that, we'll have more clarity, and then I'll explain you, the entire working to you once again from the beginning, that why we have done answer like this. Okay, because it is quite like lengthy question, that is the reason. So answer of the first question, in that, write down calculation of beta of portfolio. How it will be calculated? Simple weighted average. Column number 1 is security, column number 2 is weight, column number 3 is beta, and the last column is weight into beta. That is the way we will be having the beta of the portfolio. First security, second security, and third security. That is the way we will have the total. The proportion in which we have made investment is 1/3, 1/3, and 1/3, because there are three securities and the equal amount is invested in each of the security. The total is 1. Multiplied with the beta. What is the beta? Beta is this: 0.7, 1.05, and 0.95. So we understand it is 0.70, 1.05, and 0.95. So use a calculator. 0.7 divided by 3, so it comes to 0.2333. 1.05 divided by 3, that is 0.35. 0.95 divided by 3, So 0.3167, 0.2333 plus 0.35 plus 0.3167 is equal to 0.90. You can also do summation of this 3 divided by 3, 0.7 plus 1.05 plus 0.95. Total is 2.7 divided by 3. Why? Because the equal amount is invested in each of the security. So please write down beta of the portfolio. So beta of the portfolio is simple weighted average, that is 0.90. The second part of the question, which is of course very important, we are required to make the computation of the standard deviation using the Sharpe index model. Let us have understanding that say how to do answer over here, say the second part of the question. Working note number 1. Do not write anything, let me explain to you. Calculation of unsystematic risk of each security. Dear students, first of all, we'll compute the unsystematic risk for each security. Why? I just explained that to you. Do not write anything, let me explain to you. Total risk is equal to systematic risk plus unsystematic risk. Fine. Now we want to find unsystematic risk. It is the total risk minus systematic risk. Okay. What is the total risk? It is variance of the security minus systematic risk. That is beta of the security into variance of the market portfolio, because that both information available to us ready-made. Now this calculation is supposed to be made for security 1, for security 2 and for security 3. For each of the security, we will compute the unsystematic risk. Of course, whatever the answer that we compute over here will be in variance term. We can see that the standard deviation is given 9. So square of 9 is 81, that is the total risk. Minus beta square, that is square of 0.70 into variance of the market portfolio, that is square of 10. This is the way we'll compute the unsystematic risk. That's fine, okay. Then we'll make the computation of working note number 2, calculation of unsystematic risk of portfolio. Now how to make calculation of that answer? Listen carefully. It is weight of first security square into unsystematic risk of the first security plus weight of second security square in the portfolio into unsystematic risk of second security plus weight of third security square into unsystematic risk of the third security. What is the weight? 1 by 3, 1 by 3, 1 by 3. What is the unsystematic risk? That is what we have computed over here. Sir, why do we take W1 square, W2 square, W3 square? Why do we take the square? It's very simple. We understand that the unsystematic risk is in the variance term. As it is in the square term, so we take the square even of the weights. Okay, the second working note will give us calculation of the unsystematic risk of the portfolio. After we make this calculation, working note number 3, calculation of total risk as per Sharpe index model. First of all, of course, I am going to make the calculation in the variance term. Listen me carefully. It is systematic risk plus unsystematic risk. What is systematic risk? It is beta square into sigma m square plus unsystematic risk of the portfolio. Understand that the beta square into sigma m square is in the variance term. So unsystematic risk that we are going to add will also be in the variance term. What is the beta? You can see that the beta of the portfolio have already been found by us. Otherwise, we are supposed to calculate it over here. So over here, square of 0.90 into square of 10. This is the systematic risk of the portfolio plus unsystematic risk of the portfolio. That's say we are going to take from here. Both of them will be added, and that is the way we'll compute the total risk. Whatever the total risk that we have is in the variance term. Under root of the same will be standard deviation. This is the way we are required to compute answer of the question in terms of calculation of the standard deviation of the portfolio using Sharpe index model. So we understand that over here it is first of all unsystematic risk will be calculated. That is the total risk minus systematic risk. Total risk is square of 9, square of 14 and square of 12. So we understand that the square of 9, square of 14 and square of 12 minus beta square into sigma m square. What is beta 0.70? What is standard deviation of the market portfolio? 10. So the variance is 100. Again, 1.05 square into square of 10. Lastly, square of 0.95 into square of 10. That is what we understand. So use your calculator. Square of 0.7 is 0.49 into 100. That is 49. That would be subtracted from square of 9, that is 81. And the final answer is 32. Dear students, remember that importantly, this 32 is in the variance term. Square of 1.05 is 1.1025 into 100. That is 110.25. That would be subtracted from square of 14, that is 196. So the answer is 85.75. Square of 0.95 is 0.9025 into 100, that is 90.25. That is deducted from 144. So 53.75. This is the way we'll make the calculation of the unsystematic risk of individual security. After making calculation of unsystematic risk of individual security, we'll compute unsystematic risk of the portfolio. This is of course new working, and in my opinion it is important too. Weight of 1 square into unsystematic risk of the first security. Weight of first security is 1 by 3 raised to 2 into unsystematic risk is 32 plus 1 by 3 raised to 2 once again into 85.75 plus 1 by 3 raised to 2 into 53.75. Okay. So let us see that's how to do answer. 1 by 3 is 0.33333. Its square 0.111111 into 32. That comes to 3.56. Again same, square of 1 by 3 into 85.75. So 9.53. Again same into 53.75. That is 5.97. Okay. 3.56 plus 9.53 plus 5.97 is equal to 19.06. This is the unsystematic risk of the portfolio. Okay, next is the total risk. In that, say we are just supposed to add this unsystematic risk component that say we have calculated. It is 19.06. Of course, friends, you can understand beta square into sigma m square will be in the variance term. This is already in the variance term, so they can be added directly. That is 19.06. Square of zero point 0.9 will be 0.81. 0.81 into 100 is 81. So 81 plus 19.06, that comes to 100.06. Okay. Once we have computed the variance, calculation of the standard deviation is extremely simple. Standard deviation of portfolio is under root of the variance of portfolio. So it is under root of 100.06 and it would be very near to 10. Yes, it is 10 percentage. 10.0029, but we are just ignoring that, and it is 10 percentage. So we have completed the first part of the question. Assuming that funds are equally invested in these three stocks, compute risk of the portfolio in terms of beta, that is what we have done, 0.9, standard deviation using Sharpe index model, or using the co-movement between the securities due to change in the market index. That is what we have done. Now the second part of the question. Suppose if above portfolio is invested with a margin of 40 percentage and cost of borrowing is 4 percentage. Calculate these three questions: return of the portfolio, beta of the portfolio, and again the standard deviation. Let us have understanding that say how to make the calculation of answer. Dear students, over here again the understanding of the language of the question is very important over here. The question says that say you are going to make investment in this portfolio with a margin of 40 percentage. What does that mean? I explain that to you first of all. Suppose for example, randomly I am taking, you have an amount of 1,50,000. Suppose you have an amount of 1,50,000. In first security, second security, third security, you make investment of 50,000, 50,000 and 50,000. So the total amount of the investment is 1,50,000. Now you are going to invest in this portfolio once again with a margin of 40 percentage. What does it mean? It means that say whatever the amount that you are already having into 40 percentage, that comes to an amount of 60,000. You will borrow an amount of rupees 60,000 and you will make investment in this portfolio once again in equal proportion. 60,000 divided by 3, yes, it comes to 20,000. So what will happen? Instead of 50, you will have investment of 70. Instead of 50, you will have investment of 70. Instead of 50, you will have investment of 70. So the total amount is going to be 2,10,000. This is the way you are going to have the investment: 1,50,000 plus 60,000. That in total 2,10,000. Okay. Now for this portfolio, you are required to make the computation of the return, beta, and standard deviation. Let us understand and say how to make the calculation of answer. First of all, I have only explained you the question. Okay, so let us have understanding that say how to make the calculation of answer. The question is providing the information that these securities are likely to give a return like this: 5, 10 and 11. Okay. So 1, 2 and 3. It is 5, 10 and 11. What is the total investment? Total investment is like whatever the investment. You are having so the investment in the proportion as 1 by 3. Okay. So 5 divided by 3. then 10 divided by 3, and 11 divided by 3. That is the way you can compute that. Say it is 8.67 percentage. That is return of the portfolio if you have made investment of only this 1,50,000. But now you are going to borrow funds and you are going to make investment. So what will happen? Listen carefully what I am going to speak. Return of the portfolio will be found as weight of existing portfolio into return of existing portfolio plus weight of borrowing, that is risk-free rate of return, into risk-free rate of return. What will be the weight of existing? It will be 1.40. That is 2,10,000 upon 1,50,000. Whatever the amount that say you have invested is 40% more than the amount held by you. I hope you recall a formula. Weight is calculated as amount of investment divided by amount held. This is a formula. Okay, so this is 1.40 multiplying with the return. What is the return? 8.67 plus weight of risk free is negative 0.40 into return of risk free is provided to us as 4%. Remember that say whenever you borrow, then in that case the risk is for the opposite person, that whether you will give or not. For you, that there is no risk, there is no volatility, because the rate at which you are supposed to pay is going to be constant. In absence of an information, we make an assumption that say the borrowing is at risk-free rate of return. However, in this question, there is always there is of course a clarity provided to us. So use your calculator. 8.67 into 1.4, that comes to 12.14 minus 1.6, that comes to 10.54. This is the way we'll make the computation that say what is the return of the portfolio. If at all the portfolio is financed with 40% margin. So write down answer of the question. It has been given that the portfolio is financed with 40% margin. Full stop. It means whatever amount investor is currently holding, comma, 40% of the same will be borrowed and it will be again invested in existing portfolio, comma, in the same proportion. Full stop. This is the way we are required to understand the question. Working note number 1, calculation of return of portfolio In bracket I am writing without borrowing. So we'll prepare the working note for that, say 8.67% first of all. It is weight of first security into return of first security, weight of second security into return of second security, weight of third security into return of third security. The first security weight is 1 by 3 into return is 5. Second one is again 1 by 3 into return 10. Third one is 1 by 3 into return is 11. So 5 divided by 3 is 1.67. 10 divided by 3 is 3.33. 11 divided by 3 is 3.67. 1.67 plus 3.33 plus 3.67. It is 8.67. That is the way return of the portfolio can be calculated without considering the borrowing. Working note number 2. Calculation of return of the portfolio. It is weight of existing into return of existing plus weight of RF into return of RF. What is the weight of existing one? 1.40. What is the return of the existing one? 8.67. Plus what is the weight of risk free? Negative 0.4. What is the return of risk free? 4. 1.4 into 8.67. It is 12.14 minus 1.60. 10.54. This is the way return of the portfolio can be calculated. The remaining two answers are also very simple, friends. The question says that you're required to compute the beta and standard deviation. So the second question. In that the question says that you're required to compute beta of the portfolio. Beta of the portfolio will be found again simple weighted average. It is weight of existing into beta of existing plus weight of RF into beta of RF. Weight of existing is 1.40 because 40% is the funds which you have borrowed. Beta is 0.9 plus negative 0.4 into beta 0. So 1.4 into 0.9, 1.26 plus 0. That is the way the beta of the portfolio can be found. Next question, third one. Calculation of the standard deviation of the portfolio. Now friends, over here we understand that the investment is made in two securities like that. One is the existing portfolio and another is risk free. When you are having said the combination of this two, then in that case sigma p can be calculated by using a very simple formula, weight of existing into standard deviation of existing. That is the way we can make the calculation of the standard deviation of portfolio. So in the earlier question we have seen that if investment is made in two securities, one is the existing portfolio and another is a risk-free security. This is the detailed formula. Wherein we understand that say this element will be 0. Why? Because the standard deviation of risk-free security is 0. This element will be 0. So ultimately what will happen? Standard deviation of portfolio can be calculated as product of this two only. The formula that say we have seen, that is of the Markowitz model, but still that concept is applicable over here as well. The reason behind that is the standard deviation of the risk-free security is of course 0. So what is the weight of existing? 1.40. What is the standard deviation of existing? We have recently calculated. It is say 10 percentage. Okay, this is calculated 10 percentage. So 1.4 into 10, that comes to 14 percentage. That is the way the standard deviation of portfolio can be calculated. So friends, over here, the question is divided into two parts. The first part of the question has two questions. The first is the beta of the portfolio, which is simple weighted average. The proportion in which we are going to make investment and respective beta have been given to us. Now, basically for doing, so the next question, that is in the first part of the question, the second part, that is the reason we are doing this question in the classroom. The question says that so you are required to make the computation of the standard deviation of the portfolio using Sharpe index model. In that, say what we are required to do, we are required to apply the formula like this: total risk is equal to systematic risk of the portfolio plus unsystematic risk. Systematic risk of the portfolio can be calculated simply as beta square into sigma m square. Beta is 0.9, which we have computed above. Sigma m have been given to us, so its square will be variance. Now, as far as the unsystematic risk of the portfolio is concerned, that is an important part of the question. For that, first of all, unsystematic risk of the individual security is required to be calculated. That is the total risk minus systematic risk. So we have found as 32, 85.75 and say 53.75. Next working note will be calculation of the unsystematic risk of the portfolio. That is weight of the individual security square into unsystematic risk. That is the way unsystematic risk component of the portfolio is calculated. That is 19.06. Next is the total risk as per Sharpe index model, wherein systematic risk plus unsystematic risk, which we have found recently, and with that say we compute the standard deviation. Second part of the question, in that say in my opinion, say it is very important for a student to understand language of the question. 40% of the funds is borrowed for the purpose of making investment in existing portfolio. So 1,50,000 into 40%, that comes to 60,000. 150 is an assumed amount. So 60,000 is borrowed and it is invested in the existing securities in equal proportion, that is 20,000 rupees each. So from 50 it will increase to 70. From 50 it will increase to 70 and so on. Return of the portfolio is weight of existing into return of existing. Weight of risk-free into return of risk-free. That is the way it is calculated. Importantly, the weight of existing will be 1.40 and for risk-free it will be negative 0.4. The reason for the negative is we have taken a short position because we have borrowed a risk-free security. That is the reason. Okay. That comes to 10.54 percentage. So we have calculated the answer into two steps. First is the return without considering so the borrowing, and then considering the borrowing, what is the return. Next is the beta of the portfolio calculation, wherein once again we understand so it is simple weighted average and the weight of existing will be taken as 1.40. Standard deviation, in that once again so the weight of existing will be taken as 1.40 and with that so we will calculate the answer.